We're recording. It is 7:34 on Wednesday, March 26th. Welcome, everybody. Um, I'd like to call the meeting to order, and I would like to, I forgot the word, I'm sorry, my brain isn't working. It was a long day of community service. I would like to move that we accept the minutes from the last meeting. Did anyone find any problems with the minutes? I
Second.
move,
No,
okay, we have a second, so we'll move forward. Those minutes are approved. We're going to start with the police report, and then we'll go into a little president's report, and I'll tell you a little bit about how we can most effectively run this meeting today. Officer Ignat, are you back with us? Or do we lose you?
I can manually
he's there, but he's muted.
Yeah, he may be on that radio call.
right.
Hello, I'm here. Can you hear me?
We
Yes,
can.
sir. Welcome. I think this is the first time you've joined us.
I appreciate that. Yeah, sometimes it's different officers coming in here, but happy to be here.
It's nice to have you. We often have Officer Moody. How long have you been in this on this beat?
This is my first year here.
Okay. Well, welcome to Point Richmond. We look forward to meeting you face to face. I hope you'll come to the Spring Fling or National Night Out if you're around. What do you have for us? Do you have a recap of the crime report?
Yes, this crime report is from February 22nd and up until March 24th. So within the Point Richmond district, we have had 749 calls for service between that time, 97 reports and 18 arrests. The majority being 911 disconnects, which is when someone calls the police and before they can give us viable information, they hang up and we just kind of get a GPS location. We've had 42 traffic stops, 35 alarm audibles, 32 suspicious vehicles, 28 unwanted persons. And the top reports that we have taken have been vehicle thefts, vandalisms, petty thefts, not specified, and auto burglaries. We also had a aggravated assault in Point Richmond at 841 Dornan on March 1st, which resulted in 5 people arrested and a firearm recovered. And there was another aggravated assault, which was a domestic violence incident with 1 person arrested. So that's between February 22nd to March 24th. Is there any
Officer
questions?
Ignat,
Yes.
I'm sorry, on the Dornan Drive address, was that a business or a home?
I
You
think there
know?
was. I think that was more of a unincorporated area.
Okay. Yeah, there's not a lot on Dornan, of structures.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, that's fine. That was the basis of my report. Of just, is there anything that anybody has questions on regarding that information?
Do we have any questions? I know that I have some, but I want to give the attendees a chance to raise their hands or speak out. Officer, on the night, sometime between the 24th and the 25th, we had a series of incidents on East Richmond. It looked like 6 or 7 cars were vandalized and robbed. Do you know
That's
anything
correct.
about that?
Yes. It looks like we took a bunch of reports for that yesterday. It looks like it happened between Monday night to Tuesday morning or after late afternoon. I think it was 6 cars in total towards the end of the block of East Richmond. We had some blood in some of the cars from, I'm guessing, the suspect, which was collected and will be processed. Other than that, at least the people that I talked to, we didn't have any suspect information or leads at the time, but we will be following up on that and working on seeing what we can gather.
Thanks. Yeah, we've got, an increasing homeless population. And there was also a social media report of a conflict at in the approximate location at that approximate time of somebody who I guess came home from work early in the morning and found a tall, slender person in her boyfriend or husband's car. And it sounds like it may have been the same thing, or part of that incident because the timing sort of works out. Does anybody else have any questions about of Officer Ignat? Oh, Lisa Johnson.
Are you able to say if the assault, because there was some assaults, they might have been earlier in before that February 22nd date, also near Cutting and Garrard. There's been some assaults this year that came across my crime reports. And I was just curious if you can also comment if those might have been people attending. There's that Ramblers building on Dornan, which is at that address where that assault, I think, was reported. And I don't know if it was people there or if it was people just, visiting the park.
Yeah, so I couldn't specify for certain, but a lot of the people that tend to be in that area are people who live out of their vehicles or are unhoused. It's more, they kind of find it more discreet in a way to hide out in a place to just go when they have nowhere else to go. So a lot of the things that do happen over there tend to come from that group of people.
And even at Cutting and Garrard?
At that address, I'm not aware of the assault that you're referencing.
Okay.
Maybe sure stay.
Huh?
Maybe sure stay, Lisa.
No, it was they're usually kind of right. They list the address on South Garrard and it's usually near the Cutting intersection. So it can be, the way those crime reports are written, it's like a block. They don't give you the information, so you never really know, but it's just, you just kind of want to be aware of what's going on in the neighborhood if you're walking and doing that kind of stuff, to be vigilant. So
Thanks for pointing that out. Lisa follows those and sends a lot over, so it's quite interesting. I know all of our police force is overworked and on overtime. So if nobody has any other questions or comments, we'll let Officer Ignat go back to his protecting of us. All good to go. Welcome to our neighborhood and welcome to our neighborhood council. And thank you very much for coming this evening.
I appreciate it. Thank you guys for hearing me out. Hopefully I'll see you in person soon.
Yeah, we'll look for you.
All right.
All righty, we're going to get started a little bit on the president's report. I have a few things to go over. The first one is a District 3 meeting. I see Cesar Zepeda, Councilman Zepeda is on. Cesar's holding his third annual District 3 meeting. I have attended the first two, and some of the people here have been there as well. This is for all the districts, or everybody in District 2, this Saturday, March 29th, and it is at the Shields Reed Community Center from 10 o'clock to 1 o'clock with refreshments being served. Tomorrow morning, you will receive an invitation from the PRNC. That will be on your inbox, on your internet, or on your email. So we'll email out that flyer. I encourage you to go because Cesar, I've watched this happen over the last 2 years. Cesar gets our feedback, and then in the subsequent city council meetings, he immediately starts to institute our requests. So it's effective, and he is taking action on our requests. Somebody who says, please change your name. If you can, please type in your name. Everyone is welcome, but we do like to know who's on the Zoom meeting. Spring Fling is going to be kick butt this year. We got some funding from the state, instituted from the city. So there will be more activities than ever. That is Saturday, April 5th on Park Place. There'll be free face painting. We're hiring them this year. Balloons, balloon tying for the kids. There'll be a photo booth, a DJ. We're working on fancy cars, and we have 10 volunteers from Chevron coming to help us set up and break down. So thanks to Chevron. Also thanks to Chevron for being a fiscal sponsor. They're sponsoring Spring Fling and National Night Out this year. So please come by. I think it's going to be more active than ever. Edie and Josephine, who's a new at-large member of the board, are working with the business community around the town triangle, and have arranged for more vendors than we've ever had. So we have Arts of Point Richmond vendors, we have merchants from around the area. So it's going to be really fun. Let's all pray for a sunny weather. Last year we had subsequent pouring and then hot and then pouring. So that's Saturday the 5th. We've been working real hard on that. We're real excited. you probably have received the newsletter in your mail. Most of you get it. We do not provide the mailing list. It comes from the city. So some of you don't. But you will notice the new tunnel mural signage has been unveiled right behind the tennis court at the entrance to the tunnel. The newsletter and the signage itself has the logos and the names of people who provided the money for that signage, but also to replenish the fund so that we have money for the next time when we have to do the next renovation. And the PRNC hopes to always have money in their account so that next time we have to redo the mural, we have that ready to do. So please take a look at that sign. And if you see those merchants or those neighbors on the street, please thank them. Our corporate sponsors are part of our community, but let's remember that they are conducting businesses. So, you know, if you have a choice of where you have your haircut and you can pop your head in and thank the New Leaf Salon, or you can, you know, see somebody from Chevron and say, hey, thanks, we really appreciate it. Phillips 66 gave, Veolia gave, Republic gave, Lisa Johnson had a lot of these contacts. So you'll see a list of those in your mailbox, but also at the tunnel mural signage. Thanks to James Cheserick for doing all the historic research and providing us photos from his personal collection and from the History Museum. And thanks to the Point Richmond History Museum as well. There's too many people to thank here. I want to talk about something about LUDRC. We are not hearing the Western Drive property today. We will not be voting on the Western Drive property. That has been held over for additional meeting. Of late, I generally try not to attend those meetings very much. But I was really interested in what was happening with the watershed. And then I stayed on to hear about the Western Drive property. And I just want to say something that I would urge you to share with your neighbors. The LUDRC Land Use Design Review Commission Committee is a subcommittee of the PRNC. They hear the neighbors' concerns about new projects and they write them up and they send them to the city. But we are advisory only, and we do not decide what comes into town and what doesn't come into town. And the tone of that meeting got a little bit dicey, in my opinion, with people, some neighbors who are concerned about the project, which is their legitimate concern, being impolite or demanding of both the LUDRC members. And Charmaine, you can correct me if you feel this is normal or you know, wrong if I'm saying it wrongly. But I do want to remind people that it is recommended from the city that people attend the LUDRC meetings, but they are not required to. So if we beat up on the applicants, they can pull out of the process. It will make it a little harder for them, but this is a team effort, I think, between the community to express our concerns about these projects and the applicants who want to do what they want to do with their properties. So I just want to remind people when you attend LUDRC or when you talk about LUDRC that it is a cooperative effort. And if it gets unfriendly, and Peter's on that board as well, if it gets unfriendly or confrontational, a professional architect or designer is just going to shut us off and say, and this literally was a sentence I heard, I'll take my chances by bypassing this committee and going directly to the design review board from the city. Peter?
Yeah, in fact, I think during my administration, some folks didn't like the decisions that we reached or that were reached regarding LUDRC meetings. And I think a lot of people just avoided presenting to the LUDRC at all, and they just went straight to the city. So it's kind of a courtesy. It's a way for the community to voice their opinions and talk to their neighbors about what's happening. But everybody does have to be courteous and remember that we're all volunteers. This is we're volunteering our time. We're trying to be as polite as possible. Sorry, I've got a noisy little bird on my invisible shoulder here. Anyway, that's it.
Thanks, Peter. I wasn't sure if I was misinterpreting it. I felt that meeting was very tense, and
Yeah, it
so
was.
yeah, and I understand that if people want their views, they have concerns, but I just wanted to restate that, and I'll talk to Rod and Charmaine and Peter and see whether or not we need to maybe send a little email out, possibly reminding people that it's a cooperative effort, and we don't want to piss anybody or I'm sorry, disturb anybody to the point that they walk away from the table. I think that we can move forward a little. I just want to say one more thing. We have a lot of shiny brass from the fire department here to follow up on our fire safety from last month. Next month, we're going to have the police department because they handle the emergency evacuations. So this is kind of the theme at the beginning of this year. We don't have a lot of time with in any one meeting. So what we will probably not be doing today is talking a lot about like how to trim the trees down from your home. We know that stuff. Or reporting individual issues of fire safety, like my neighbor has a wood pile next to a gas grill. Those are things that we can do one-on-one by reporting to the fire so that we have more time for questions and answers for Chief Osorio. So let's just try to, and I'm the worst of rambling on than anyone in the world, but let's try to stay on topic and let these guys present this issue, the issues about evacuation routes, how infrastructure affects it, and whether or not Point Richmond wants to be a high fire zone. So let's go on with Margie, and she can do the treasurer's report. You're muted, Margie.
There we go. Sorry about that. Yes, we're in good shape again this month because of our corporate sponsors and all the support that we've gotten. We appreciate that. We will have some money outlay going this month. However, or coming up next month, we're going to be supporting the Point Richmond Music Festival, which we do every year. We have some money going out for the tunnel event. We have some money going out for the spring fling. And we will be working on a major project downtown with the Westside Women's Improvement Club in conjunction with them, a gardening project, and that will go over in the next 3 months. So we'll be outlaying some cash there as well.
Thanks, Margie. I appreciate it. Eric, any new members?
We do. Good evening. This is Eric. We have 3 new members, so that brings our total up to 195. So if
Thanks,
you're here,
Eric. That's
welcome.
actually good.
Yes, that's it.
That's a good number. Thanks, Eric. Now I'd like to introduce our relatively new fire chief, Chief Aaron Osorio. And I sent forward a list of the main concerns that people have told me and things that are mostly ongoing. And Chief, I think if you maybe go off that list, your presentation might kind of write itself, plus whatever you wanted to speak to us about. Thank you for taking time out to be here tonight.
Thanks, Philip. Appreciate it. I'm going to start out because I did bring quite the entourage with me tonight, hoping to cover all the bases because I know there's questions and we have different divisions here. So I'll start with me. My name is Aaron Osorio. I'm the fire chief for Richmond Fire. I was appointed fire chief October 2nd of last year. But many of you may not know, I've actually been with the organization for a very long time. This August will be 23 years for me with the Richmond Fire Department. I have filled every operational role within the fire department, from firefighter, boot firefighter, all the way up to fire chief. I've also been involved in every special operations in the fire department, hazmat, marine, rescue, USAR. So I have pretty extensive knowledge in the operations of the department. I'm very familiar with the city. I've worked at nearly every I've worked at every firehouse in the city, but I've been assigned to nearly every firehouse in the city other than Valley View. So I have a good working knowledge of all the different neighborhoods in the city. So thanks for having us here tonight. My goal is to cover, there's a lot of topics. Hopefully we can get through all of them. I really want to be able to answer some questions, and ultimately I would really like to have spend the bulk of the time on the maps and the new LRA zones. But there is some housekeeping from last time that we want to cover too, some of the follow-up from the last meeting. I'll pass it over to my Fire Marshal, Dante Wiley.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Dante Wiley. I was promoted to the rank of Fire Marshal on March 1st of this year. I've been in the fire service coming up on 13 years here in the city of Richmond on March 30th. I previously held the rank of firefighter, Fire Inspector 1 and Fire Inspector 2, and also acted in the capacity of Deputy Fire Marshal.
Congratulations. I was like, that's
Congratulations, Dante.
Thank you. Thank you very much. That means a lot. I will pass it on to Richard Diaz.
Thank you, Fire Marshal. And good evening, everyone. Richard Diaz. I serve for the city as the current Emergency Services Manager. I've actually was here about a year ago, so happy to sit here and engage with Point Richmond residents again. Those of you that don't know me, I've actually now been a little bit over a year with the city. Quick experience with our jurisdictions. I worked with City of San Rafael in the past, also with the County of Sonoma, and doing some consultancy work as well. Also back in East Coast with the City of Jacksonville, engaging there as well. So you can see my background is beautiful Point Richmond. I don't have that on purpose for today. It's been there for quite a bit, and I've gotten great feedback from that. Yeah, this is me, and again, my role is really to help plan and have both the community and the city ready to respond to any emergencies. And I, as Chief Osorio mentioned, I am the head of the office within the fire department.
Also wanted to take a minute. Looks like I have my Deputy Fire Marshal, Eric Munson, on the call too. Eric, you want to introduce yourself?
Yes, I was just going to be a spectator today, but yes, Fire Chief Aaron Osorio. Yes, this is Eric Munson, Deputy Fire Marshal for the City of Richmond. 28 years currently right now. I've served in quite the capacity of different positions within the city, but we'll keep it short. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Eric. So I'll get started really quick. I'm going to actually start it off by sending it to Richard to talk about a couple items. One of them is follow-up from your last meeting. If somebody could make me the host so I could share my screen, I think it would be easier for Richard to move forward with the next item he has to discuss.
Chief
Thank you,
Osorio,
Chief.
you
Yep.
can, I believe you can share.
Yeah.
There's no issue.
Pulling it up right now. Let's see here. Are you guys able to see this?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Okay, go ahead, Richard.
Excellent. Thank you, Chief. So very briefly, Chief Osorio said there's pending item from last month meeting, and it was brought to our attention that during the evacuation drill that was held in the area in 2023, some residents did not receive that notification that was also tested, especially residents from Sandpiper Spit. For Genesis Protect, as you know, that is now the name of the software, which used to be called Zone Haven, which is a supportive tool for evacuation planning. We actually did contact them, and they have gone ahead and made that revision. What the problem was that it was not including, there's a problem with the zone geo fence, and the street was not precisely included. That has now been fixed, and actually today by 5 p.m. it has gone live. So if you go to Genesis Protect public website, you will see that. And the same thing with other coastal areas, residents that might have been affected. Our RCH E018. It's the one that corresponds to Point Richmond. Also for the Marina Bay, RCH E035. That is now how it's been revised. And that means that residents, including those from liveaboards, will be included in those types of notifications. So that's another example of how it looks. Again, this is the actual screenshot from Genesis Protect if you go online and see it. And
Real quick, Richard, let me add the last one. This brought up an issue with all of the marinas, and we also, Genesis noted, they never had East Brothers Island in there. And so they expanded their zones to include Point San Pablo, East Brothers, Brickyard Marina, and the Richmond Marina are all now included for anybody that lives aboard their vessel at a slip.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. That was my request. Awesome. Thank you.
Ask and you
Thanks,
shall
Lisa.
receive sometimes.
This is what we learned from that evacuation drill.
That was very important information to learn, but it needed to be passed on to the people who can make it happen. So thank you for passing that on. All right. Sorry, Richard.
No, thank you. So yeah, I mean, it's something we needed to convey today in terms of, that the pending items. I think the key word here is evacuation, and the community deserves a little update on what's happening with that in terms of planning. I think I also have hosting rights, so I'll go ahead and share a quick document. But in the meantime, when you talk about evacuation, I like to remind people that it really depends on what we're talking about. Point Richmond, obviously, the geography of the area, and we all know now, very well, the logistical challenges that exist. However, when we talk about evacuation in a scenario, it's what are we talking about in terms of the hazard? So it really depends on the nature of the hazard and also the location. Having said that, when we plan, we cannot have a fixed model, if you will, of where people or how people will go, because simply it's dynamic. We could talk about a landslide that impacts the eastern side of Point Richmond, including Brickyard. I might have to close a road. If we tell people, hey, this is your permanent evacuation route, that actually might be hampered because of that particular hazard. You might have an earthquake situation, you might have a wildfire. So again, the direction, the location, just simply the nature of it, it's makes it so that it has to be a flexible type of approach to planning of the evacuation or movement of people to safer places. Having said that, and excuse me, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen now because I do want to share kind of like I call it a draft. If you see here, I think it's important for residents to at least have kind of like a sense of what is it that we're considering, important evacuation ways or routes. So we are working on having something similar to this. That's why it's very clearly pointed out there as draft. And this is, I call it map A because this is just the Point Richmond area, but then the second map will be more for Brickyard. But number one, as residents, you guys know how to get out of the place. So, for my planning purposes, I want to make sure that we have something that we all agreed upon, that, these are the key areas that you know how to get to and that will get you out of the actual location. So very simple. These are what's highlighted there are the roads that, you guys, again, know how to get there, and we would consider, or we would pretty much plan around to get you to northern part to safety, to get you to 580, to get you to the eastern side, depending on the hazard. And again, we're not talking about, hey, this is the fixed way. We're not going too granular also on, from Western Drive, for instance. This is exactly how you need to take it to the left. No, because that then defeats the purpose. So we're focusing on something like this, which if you look at it, is very simple, but I think it's informative when it comes to really understanding what is it that is essential. And also, I want to do this in concert with the residents. We're also talking about Point Richmond, folks that rent their homes. We have people that come to Point Richmond over the weekends or special events. If there's something that you might want to have to share potentially with people that are not, too knowledgeable of the area, we can also discuss that. But this is something that I want to definitely be resident informed in concert with me. But again, this is just how we want to make sure. If you see here, I'm going to scroll down a little bit. Obviously, we have the tunnels, South Garrard Boulevard. It's potential roads to remember that that's what's going to take you out of the area. Cutting Boulevard, obviously here, you need to go to the right or in this case east because of whatever is happening. I mean, we will plan that and let the community know depending on the situation. Brickyard Landing, again, as residents of the area, who knows best, how to get out of there for anything. Need to do your groceries. What is the street that you take? And for now, I mean, obviously this is the main route, the main road to get you out of the area. If there's a hazard, if the tunnel is blocked, for instance, you now have to go that way. There is, the Seacliff Drive that will take you out to wherever you need to go, either 580 or a friend's house. And, if we designate a temporary gathering place, it's just that visual aspect that kind of gives you a sense of, okay, I need to understand now what is that the city is considering and planning around to move people to safer place. And again, going too granular will be challenging, will complicate things, and it will be confusing. But this is something that some cities have developed, and the idea is, sorry, Philip, 1 second. The idea is to replicate this in other neighborhoods that have similar challenges. Marina Bay, obviously out by the northeastern side because of wildfire, etc. Philip, go ahead.
Richard, I appreciate what you're saying, and that what you're saying is obvious. We know our ways out. I think that the questions that we sent forward earlier this week kind of focus not on the fact that we don't know what these roads are, but what the relationship is between, and we do have Public Works here as well. So what the relationship is between the fire department, the police department, you, and Public Works. The 100,000 times a week issues that we have concern trains blocking the roads and changes in the infrastructure on these evacuation routes, specifically bike lanes. And we do have, I've done ride-throughs, so many hours of driving, including with you. Thank you, Richard. So many hours of drive-through with city officials and politicians, and trying to kind of show you what happens when trains block the roads up to 35 minutes at a time. Sometimes the emergency vehicles won't be able to get where they need to, not because the roads are unavailable, but because of the gridlock. Robert Stevens, who is responsible for laying down those bike routes, drove with me and came up with a ton of solutions. So one of the questions I asked for Robert Armijo, who will probably speak in a little while, is when can we see some of those minor changes? Things like U-turn lanes that allows, and you know what I'm talking about, Richard, and the people who live here do, because I showed you this. U-turns that used to allow us to escape that are no longer available to us, sort of these routes. So I guess the thing I hear over and over again is, how can we have bike lanes but have them not take over our emergency evacuation routes. And then later for Public Works, how can we improve this? Because our concern is they just keep going up. These lanes just keep going up. They haven't, and now they want to run them through the tunnel, which means that we won't be able to do U-turns at the water side of the tunnel. They want to take away our ability to do U-turns in front of the plunge. So we're just trapped by trains, but soon we're going to be like LA, where we're just going to have to get out of our cars if you're evacuating by car and fleeing. And that just comes up over and over again. And I know it's highly complicated. And I was also concerned with Public Works when they said, well, we just need to put the bike lanes in and fix them later. And this is a multi-million dollars, tens of millions of dollars of infrastructure. But what Lisa Johnson and I found out at this surprise meeting was that those lanes are obligated to be out there for 10 years before they, it's a 10-year proof of concept, which is really scary. So what we want to do is make sure when bike lanes or infrastructure changes that affect our evacuation routes, when they happen, how can we make them safer to begin with? And I really, the whole point of this question about emergency evacuation routes is, what is the city's idea of what they are, and how, like, for example, if they put in bike lanes or they change the tunnel, how are they accommodating for them, or is everybody just acting separately? Does that make sense?
Yeah, I can talk to the fire aspect, but I can't
Thanks,
speak for
Chief.
Public Works.
Right.
I think it's important to remember that a number of these projects are policy decisions. And so the things that we look at as a fire department, obviously we don't set policy as departments. we operationalize policy. We are consulted when it comes to clearances. We provide the dimensions of our fire apparatus when lanes are being designed. We try to give input, preferences. But in the end of the day, we don't necessarily have the ability to say, don't put it in there. And and it's, I don't know if you've ever been, I'm sure you guys have been part of some of these meetings where it's involved certain groups that have interests, such as the bike folks, and they come from everywhere. I have people chiming in these meetings, don't even live in California, but God forbid if you say something bad about a bike lane, you're, I don't know what they can do to me. So,
You're
it's
among friends here. We understand.
It's a balance. You're trying to balance policy direction. You're trying to balance improving the environment in the community by providing these types of lanes and access, all these things. And there's always going to be compromise. And, so the fire department does not have zero say, but the fire department has, some limited input. Now, if we can show that something will completely block our ability to respond, or significantly change our responses, there's a little more effort and weight put behind what we say. But a lot of it comes down to, well, can you get, under normal conditions, can you get into these locations? Is a turning radius sufficient for your heavy equipment? Can a ladder truck turn over there? What's the cramp angle on your fire engines? We turn over the actual drawings and specifications of our fire apparatus when these lanes, when engineering is designing these lanes. I don't necessarily.
I'm sorry, could I just add, if I'm running from, this is Jesse, if I'm escaping a wildfire, I'm going to thoroughly enjoy just barging right through those stupid plastic things that line the bike lane. I don't see a problem with that. And if you're saving somebody's life, mow those things down. What the hell, I mean, really, if there's a wildfire, are you guys not going to are you going to say, oh, I can't turn around here to get away from the train because these bike lane, I have to, stay on my side of this bike lane thing. I mean, can I get some feedback? Anybody else going to plow those things down if we're running from a wildfire?
We're going to do everything we can to get to where we need to get. I think.
Exactly.
I think you've seen our organization and our culture, and we're very aggressive, and we take protecting the community seriously. So we're not going to let a cone in the way deter us. Also, when it comes to the trains, that's a very difficult situation. That's a significant infrastructure change to be able to really properly address that problem. That's very expensive. What I can say is share with you how we handle dealing with trains in our normal emergency responses. We operate all the time along the train right away along the tracks due to homeless encampment fires. We have direct line of communication with them through our dispatch center to stop train traffic when we need for an emergency. In this type of scenario, that type of coordinated effort would happen as part of our evacuation orders. We would be going through our dispatch center. We will be requesting a PD support to start the evacuations. We'd be requesting PD response to control key intersections based on the maps that Richard showed you. And then we will be having the dispatch center contact BNSF, UP, Amtrak, everybody, whoever controls it, Richmond Railroad, to have all train traffic stopped and no trains crossing any streets. What the wild card factor is, if something like an earthquake happens when the train is already across the street and it's somehow derailed or tips over, now we have a whole different problem. But you could what if these scenarios forever. But we do have pre-planned operational procedures that we utilize currently that we would utilize in these scenarios. And so from the fire perspective, that's how we're looking at it. I don't know if Robert wants to chime in at all from the public works perspective, as far as the planning and development of the pathways.
Robert, you with us? And then we have a question from Lisa, I'm sorry. Hey, hi, Robert. Nice library.
Thank you. Sorry, I'm adjust my camera a little bit more. Yeah, these bike lanes were the implementation of the ferry to bridge to Greenway plan. I understand that went through a certain amount of public outreach. Those plans were, by the way, just in case any of you don't know, maybe I should back up and introduce myself. My name is Robert Armijo. I'm the Deputy Public Works Director and City Engineer. I guess I'm fairly new to the city. I've been with the city 2.5 years. I think a lot of the development of the bike lane project was before my time. I think the project was already under construction when I got here. So I've got to confess I have a limited understanding of all the intricacies of what took place in the days leading up to the bike lanes. But what I can tell you is that the bike lanes are part of the ferry to bridge to Greenway plan. This is one part of the trail of many linkages that are linking different parts of the city for bike users of all abilities. The design is largely consistent with that. Since I've have come to the city, I've had conversations with Philip and with Track and with other community members. We have heard some of the issues, some of the specified complaints, I guess, or things that we should correct on the bike lane project. For example, you mentioned, Philip, earlier the turnaround at Wine Street, which I think we can accommodate. I believe that CSW has come up with some design corrections for these things. I think the issue right now is that just the contractor, WR Ford, has been dragging their feet with implementing a lot of the changes and getting this project to close out. So that's been an unfortunate part of this project. Public Works, we definitely would like to get this resolved and done as quickly as possible. I could come back with or send you an email, Philip, some more information. I don't have specific information. I wasn't prepared for that, unfortunately,
That's right.
on exactly what the progress is on all of the punch list items that you had. But we're definitely willing to correct all those items and make sure that that the focused improvements that we need to make, that we'll attack those and make sure that we're delivering a good project prior to closeout.
Thanks, Robert. Robert is as sharp as a tack, folks, and vastly qualified for his job. But I will let you know, I will just continue to bring this up until we, until we can work together to make what changes we can. And just for the community to know, it's not a secret, it's a matter of public records. I actually pulled the public records on the outreach. And as those of us who were in those meetings, and this is not, I don't want to be confrontational, Robert, this is just something I want my community to know. Of course, we know we were never shown anything like what happened on Cutting. And we were never shown anything like what they have planned for downtown or the tunnel area. Actually, we were shown some things by Patrick Phelan, a little on the tunnel area, but as we lived with what was happening on Cutting, I started to realize how challenging it might be to do anything that's going to make the tunnel a more complicated place for emergency evacuation. So, and I don't want to get in an argument with anybody about it. Public record is public record. Someone says, we gave this information, you pull the public records and you see they didn't give you the information. So that's why I count on this community and our institutional knowledge. We have people like James who remembers everything that has happened in this town since he was born. My husband's been here 65 years. We have Peter still on our board, 8 years working on the board. We just need to I just want to make sure that we continue to wake up and see these things happening. And for the community, you need to keep on the politicians. Because when we asked for meetings and presentations, the city council voted not to allow us to have those meetings. So that was just when the Caesar, I can't remember when it was, when the council changed over and Tom Butt stepped down. So, and that meeting was at 11:30 at night. So I think it was only me and Bruce Bayard in the meeting at that time. But Robert, I do appreciate that you're responsive. I know you think I'm a pain in the neck, and I'm proud of that. But you're man enough for it. I know you're really strong. And also, by the way, in a totally unrelated thing, thank you for getting the sidewalks fixed. A lot of sidewalks around Old Point Richmond were fixed over the last few months, and beautifully and quickly and efficiently. So unrelated, thanks for that. Lisa has a question.
Yeah, so this is going to speak to all the key people on this call. So we got the fire chief, Lieutenant Diaz is on the call listening, because I think Philip's having the police next month, and Public Works is represented as well, and the emergency service manager. And it speaks to kind of what Chief Osorio was saying, right? You guys respond to policy. And Councilmember Zepeda is also on this call, and he has been very actively engaged in a number of conversations with community members who are concerned about what's been happening with evacuation routes and the bicycle routes. And it's the left hand over historically, you guys are all coming into positions. Robert, you got here after these bike plans were already approved, right? We know that. And certainly, as did Mr. Diaz, start his job later. And Chief Osorio's new into this role, and Lieutenant Diaz, I think you might have been a sergeant at the time. And so what's happened is a lot of this has come through without all of these critical people and the left hand and the right hand talking to each other and saying, how do we develop the city of Richmond to have a well planned out city that incorporates our key evacuation routes on city streets to have bicycle routes that are safe and to allow our emergency services to be able to transport across the city, especially the police, when it's 52 square miles to respond to incidences. The fire stations have 9 centers. I don't remember how many stations we have now, 9 or something like that.
7.
7. So you guys have a little bit of help getting to these places. The police, if there's a big incident and they need every beat officer to respond to a shooting or something and get there quickly, we are taking out all of these key routes that these officers have to travel across the city. I've done several ride-alongs. I see the problems these officers are facing. And I don't think you guys are empowered. I don't know if you don't feel empowered or what it is to be able to have an honest study session with the council to tell them what is happening and to help represent the community's concerns about how do we plan the city so that we protect emergency service vehicles and what they need to do and how they can respond. How do we keep emergency evacuation routes free flowing so that we don't take Cutting Boulevard down to only 2 lanes? And that's supposed to happen all the way to San Pablo. Barrett Avenue, people call it Suicide Alley now. McBride at that intersection where a bike lane is now going in at San Pablo, I know the police officers have concerns about it. They tell me. Carlson, major changes going there. And I know that part of this is to slow down traffic, but I don't know how we can help everybody, the community as a whole, to help fire, police, public works, have a conversation with council members Zepeda and the rest of the council and the mayor to say, hey, before we spend millions of dollars installing more lanes, should we think about and take more grant money and say, do we need to step back and really have a planned city that takes all of this into account? And that's what I think and other people think is missing. And I don't know how we can help make that happen. So I'm looking for help from the fire chief, from Mr. Diaz, from Robert, and for us to help us know, because Caesar's listening. He knows our concerns. And I don't want to see millions and dollars of public taxpayer money or grants going towards something that ends up with what happened on Cutting between Harbor, or Hoffman really, and Garrard, where the 30% engineered plans were completely opposite to what got installed. So this now is the chance for everybody to be able to feel empowered to speak up, I think, before this happens. So I don't know. I don't know who wants to take it on.
Well, we're dealing right now with the Carlson one. Raised some serious concerns on the Carlson Crosstown plans. We have significant concerns. It's going to impact our response times coming from one of our busiest fire stations in Crescent Park. I think you guys hit the nail on the head. I mean, you have a bunch of people from the city here in this meeting who weren't in these positions when these plans were originally made. And I can only speak for my organization, but when you don't have somebody who's familiar with responses in the city and you're not from this organization, you don't understand the main thoroughfares we use, you don't even understand the neighborhoods, things like that are going to go right over your head. You're not going to realize it. And as being somebody from within the organization, I understand how we've responded for the last 23 years. I understand what's going to impact our responses. I understand which stations have the highest call volumes and which routes they predominantly use. I'm going to be advocating for that. And so, that's my promise to you as a fire chief. I can't promise you that I'm going to get my way, but I can promise you I'm not going to just keep my mouth shut if I see a problem. But I also know that these types of issues can become very political and become very sensitive. And so, I try to give my input and my justification. And I'm always going to tie it to operational readiness, operational ability, operational response times, impacts to the community when it comes to emergencies. That's the only way I can justify my requests or for them to change. And, you know, so like I said, that's my promise to you as the fire chief is I'm not going to bite my tongue. They may tell me to sit down and shut up, but at least I can't, they won't be able to say they didn't know.
So if we're able to get a study session before the council, I'm just gonna, you know, put this on the table, and I want an honest answer. If the community across the city, neighborhood councils, I know have lots of concerns about this. If they're willing to show up in force and support police and fire and our emergency service manager and public works that say, look, we think we may want to rethink some of this, are you willing to participate in such a study session?
Yeah, we're willing to participate because it impacts my operations. I just want I want to manage expectations about what type of weight and authority I have and don't have.
And I totally understand that. And I go to every council meeting, right? I attend them online. And I know that the biggest impact that influences that council is people showing up to meetings and talking very publicly and expressing their concerns in a polite, collegial, and respectful manner. And when they see that they have the support of the community and their staff to make difficult decisions, it can happen. I know I'm being very optimistic when I say that, but I do think the power of the people can achieve amazing things. And I think there's a lot of people, when I talk to them, they're in agreement with this. Nobody wants to take away bike lanes. It's a question of where should they be and how can we do it safely and smartly for the city.
Hey, Lisa, I'll be more than happy to assist with Chief Osorio. I mean, I'm only a lieutenant and I have a couple ranks above me that I need to talk to first before I start lighting things on fire. No pun intended, Chief. But
that didn't go well.
yeah, but yeah, I mean, I'm more than happy to discuss and have that dialogue, like what the pros and cons are, because there are pros and cons, right? It's a balancing act. I mean, for me as a traffic guy that wants to slow people down so we don't have fatal collisions. I think we had 12 people perish last year in 11 collisions, and we've had 3 this year so far. You know, slowing people down and thinking about pedestrians, bicyclists, and people in vehicles, but then also not handcuffing us, no pun intended, so we can't get places in a timely manner. So I'm more than happy to have that discussion and be present when it actually occurs.
Thank you. And I understand it's a balance. And I'll just say, I've been on those ride-alongs, and at night it is harder to see, right? And I worry, you got a rookie officer who's out there and they're driving quickly to a scene. And I've seen those bulb outs on streets that didn't used to be there. And it can throw an officer for a loop when I've seen it. And it's, I don't want to see anybody die. I don't want to see pedestrians die. I don't want to see any driver die. How do we make the city safe and effective?
So Lisa, I actually tacoed 2 tires on a patrol car going up Harbor Way. This is probably in 17 or 18 because they put some new center islands in. And yes, so, and then when that happens, it prevents us from getting there because now we have a downed vehicle and then other officers have to go and assist. I mean, that's my fault for not seeing it technically, but yeah, I mean, having all these extra things, it makes it difficult.
Yeah, people don't realize that. You get a flat tire on a police officer car, it can take over an hour for a tow truck to show up and that officer's out for that much time. There's just so much happening here for fire, police, everybody. And so Caesar, I think you're listening. So.
I am. And more importantly, I hear the team listening there. So I'll reach out to everyone on this call that's part of the city staff. I mean, if we can work together, I'm hearing some yeses here. Maybe we can work together on a study session and coming together and working with Mr. Diaz and working with the chiefs and everyone to put something on in the future council meeting.
I think
Thank you.
Carlson's 1 year out, I think that, and McBride is even sooner. So the urgency is important.
Thank you. And this is a good opportunity for us to attend the District 3 meeting that you will get an email about probably
Philip
in
is
half an
District
hour.
2.
District 2, I'm sorry.
Don't move me over.
I'm sorry. And what I do want to do, because obviously this meeting is going to go really long, and I'm going to let it go really long, but we will pick up, if need be, we'll pick up. I think we're always going to need to pick up fire safety. But I do want at least one of the important things that we discussed at our last meeting is to ask the fire chief to comment on whether or not, and I know he wants feedback, what the ramifications are from a different viewpoint from Sohelia Bana, who was here last time. What are the ramifications of this idea that the residents of Point Richmond would request this become a high fire zone?
So there's a couple of things with this new proposed maps or proposed zones. Oh, and I'll go back to Point Richmond was never part of the state identified very high severity zone. Through adoption of our own ordinance, which actually stems back to 1995 was the original one, which Chief Nero was actually developed after the tunnel fire. He came from Oakland. There was a movement at that time after the tunnel fire to identify very high severity zones. Back then, there was no science behind that. There was not the modeling like there currently is now. There was some criteria adjacent to open space, topography, things like that. And so originally it was part of that zone. And then when the state in 2009 released their first version of the high severity zone maps that included local responsibility area, the city, the council at the time went along with the recommendation of the fire chief at the time to adopt that into the zone. The process back then was much looser, and the state fire marshal would allow, and the Board of Forestry would allow jurisdictions to add zones within the city based on their professional opinion and subject matter expertise. Now we fast forward to the maps that we just released in February 24th. Those maps were developed with a very high level of scientific data, modeling, fuel modeling, embercast modeling, density, topography, site-specific fire weather modeling from previous fire weather, fire activity and fire weather going back 50 years in that zone. So there's a lot of inputs that went into this modeling, and they came up with these zones by that method. And so what the state has said is they've now required, this is through law, the newest maps that are just released must now have 3 zones. Before there was only 1 zone, very high. Now there needs to be a moderate, a high, and a very high. They each come with different sets of regulations or vegetation or wildfire preparedness measures, I guess I put it that way. If the only way a zone can be put into the very high by a local jurisdiction is by providing substantial scientific proof that validates why it should be put in that zone. And the level of science that went into the map that didn't put that in the zone, there's no way we're going to come up with science that says something contrary to that. So the highest we can put a zone, we can ask for a zone to be added in is high or moderate. Now, the biggest question is do I want to be in a zone? The logical answer is no, you don't want to be in a zone. If you have a choice, most people don't have a choice, right? You look at at Moraga and Orinda, they're highly upset that almost the entire fire district is in the zone. In fact, I think they are looking at legal action against the state and the fire district to see if they can remove themselves, because there's a lot of unknowns. There's some knowns and there's some unknowns. The knowns are that you're gonna have come next year, probably January, the requirements on what you do for defensible space and wildfire preparedness are going to go way up. You're going to go to zone 0 requirements. There's already an executive order to draft up the language. That means nothing flammable within 5 feet of your structure. Fences, decks, anything potted plants, no vegetation that can burn. I mean, literally, it's got to be nothing that can burn within 5 feet, along with certain construction features. And then outside of that, there's going to be other defensible space requirements beyond the 5 feet, up to what's currently enforced, which is out to 30 feet. And then there's more requirements out to 100 feet. So there's a lot of, if you're new to a zone, there's going to be some financial impacts to you to get into compliance with this type of mandate. The other thing is that the insurance company, that's the biggest question most people have, is insurance. Right now, the insurance company does not use these maps, and that's common knowledge. Insurance companies use risk maps. These are hazard maps. Risk maps have things that can be mitigated and defensible space put in, and the risk level changes. Right now, the maps that they use are proprietary. And the state will tell you that the insurance company doesn't use these maps, these high severity zone maps. What that doesn't say is that they are not allowed to use them. There's nothing that prohibits the insurance company from, once these are all adopted, going, you know what, we're going to start using these as part of what we do to assess risk. Because they're going to look at it, they could look at it and go, well, the local agency probably knows better than the state. And if they're saying this zone should be added, then maybe we need to look more carefully at them too, in this neighborhood. And so I can't promise you they will use them. I can't promise you they won't use them. What I can promise you and guarantee is there's no language prohibiting them from using these maps once they are adopted. And with the insurance industry in California being scrutinized as heavily as it is, and the methodology that they use to come up with who gets dropped, who gets rates tripled is being scrutinized, they're going to start to use other tools to try to justify what they're doing. And there is the potential these maps could be used for something we don't expect them to be used for now. So that's the reality. The benefit.
Thank you. That's exactly, I think, what the community kind of wanted, a recap.
Okay. You know, and I'm not going to argue that you guys are in an area where there is an elevated risk over other neighborhoods, but you are not at the highest risk in the city. You know, and the other thing I think that we get more concerned about in the fire department is if we have a structure fire in the wrong location on a windy day in your neighborhood, that could spread amongst a number of houses, right? We have exposures. An urban conflagration is a bigger risk for us in Point Richmond than a wildfire issue. There is wildfire risk. You have more wildfire risk than many other parts of the city. You have a lot of things in your favor. The predominant part of your wildland area is at the top of a slope versus at the bottom of a slope with houses above it. You have the most marine influence of almost any neighborhood in the city. There is a reason Richmond is very infrequently included in red flag zones, because it's very hard to get the right set of combinations of winds out of the east or northeast, relative humidity in the teens, winds over 20 miles an hour or more, where it's the right combination where they include us. Last year's red flag day was the first one we'd had in a couple of years. Doesn't mean you don't have extreme fire behavior potentially, but it's a little different risk because we're so close to the water. We have had fires in the fog. I fought fires in the fog on Nickel Knob, right? So I'm not saying there's zero risk. And I'm not saying people shouldn't have some defensible space practices put in place down there. I do know that there would be very difficult to enforce certain levels of that defensible space rules, those rules, because of how close the houses are. You take, for example, zone 0, no fencing within 5 feet. We have houses in Richmond that I don't think there's 10 feet between both houses. So now you're gonna have to replace all the fencing on your property line? These would become very expensive things you have to do to get in compliance. So we can propose, when I have to present this to the council has to adopt the maps. And at that point, they need to make the decision whether or not they would like to include different neighborhoods or zones in the city. There's always the opportunity if the community wants a higher level of inspection and enforcement to update the Richmond ordinance, that we can designate neighborhoods as fire zones in the city and have very specific mitigation measures, potentially, like, hey, we're not gonna make people change fences, but we're gonna want vegetation within so many feet of the house. Or we currently have 7A, which is the building construction requirements for the wildland area. That's enforced for new construction in Point Richmond. It would be a great idea to keep that. There's things we can do without tying ourselves to the state maps. The other thing that we don't know what could happen with the state maps is if we turn in, right now, we know that they're gonna make the very high zone go to zone 0 requirements, most likely in 2026. Down the road, as they start to stair-step this enforcement, there's a chance that lower zones could be forced to do zone 1, which is what the current requirement is for the high fire zones. So you could really tie yourself into a state system where the city and the local fire department, who probably knows best about what their community needs, no longer is in the driver's seat. And now the state is dictating what's going to happen in the neighborhood that you live in. And the fire department is going to be mandated to comply with those requirements, just like we are in the very high zone. So there's a lot of things to consider. I don't necessarily see an upside to being in a zone. Is there opportunity to get grant money to fix your house? Yes, there is. But that requires you to organize into community groups, Firewise communities, Fire Safe Council groups. Most agencies do not give money to one-off residents. They give grants to community groups because it's proven that the only mitigation measures that work are when they're done in groups of homes. One house that does defensible space doesn't save the neighborhood. But when 7, 8, 10 houses do defensible space together, now you're creating a break in the fire and the fuel available to run through a neighborhood. So, these measures, there is things that you could get out of it, but it requires organizing in a different fashion than you already do to access some of those resources.
Thank you, Chief. And I think that it's clear that we would be well served to kind of have a little more dedicated meeting or maybe a live meeting a little later this year to just continue to flesh these ideas out. But what you're saying is consistent with what most other professionals have told me. So I wanted to thank you for clarifying. We are running so late that I'd like to ask if anybody has any questions. And I'd like to start to see if anyone has any questions for Robert Armejo so that he can go back to his family.
Yeah, Jonathan.
Hi, Jonathan.
Yeah, I have a question for Robert. Lisa Johnson and I, a few years ago, were talking to city officials about a signal or an alert system that was run more like on a high tech, like on your phone, that would alert fire, life safety, and citizens where the trains were stopping, where they were going, so everybody would know where to go. And it went at 2 or 3 sessions with the city, and we had ideas as pretty far developed where they're going to have cameras on various light standards and traffic signals. But then it got dropped. I don't know, Robert, do you know what happened to that program?
That's a good question. Do you know a name for the program?
No, but I bet Lisa does. No, I can't remember. It's buried in our or my emails and text messages. But there was a consulting group that the city hired, and they just kind of got dropped. I don't know what happened to them. Lisa, do you know what happened to those guys?
I don't know if they got hired. Caesar, you found out about them at a conference, I think in SoCal, and we had some correspondences with them. I don't know if you remember the name, Caesar.
I remember the company. I don't remember the name. I have to look it up. Robert might not remember either. We were in I brought them to a meeting together. This was almost 3 years ago. But I can look up that company if need be.
Okay, let's circle back to it then. Let's do a few emails between, Robert, Caesar, Lisa, Jonathan, and I, and circle back to it and see if there's any possibility to discuss that. Thanks, Jonathan. I appreciate it. I remember that vaguely.
Yeah, it was kind of a cool technology.
Does anybody have any questions for our fire staff or, any of our hardworking public servants who probably want to go to their families? Well, you covered it all.
Phil, I have a quick question. This is Eric.
Yeah, thanks,
So
Eric.
this will be an easy one. This is for the fire chief. I'm just curious, kind of given, the wildfire risk and, well, that risk isn't going away. Are you guys, with some of these larger stakeholders like PG&E, I guess East Bay Regional Parks, who manages the park area in Point Richmond. I mean, are you guys do you guys meet and check in and kind of keep a pulse on what these agencies are doing or what the planned activities are for wildfire risk mitigation? Like, I mean, are you guys aware like they're going to cut, I don't know, clear an acre of brush, or, do you coordinate these plans for fire prevention and kind of roundtable that out and know what's going on generally around the community with like these various property owners or whoever has this jurisdiction? Does that make sense?
Sorry, I was on mute. Yes. So I won't say that every project is coordinated. So let's take East Bay Regional Parks. When they do control burns, which typically now they only really do them in Point Pinole Regional Park every year. We coordinate with them, we assist them, we'll provide for staffing if we can. Our prevention bureau was looking at doing a grazing project on the east side of town that was going to tie into a grazing project that East Bay Parks is trying to do. And that Public Works, that we were just consulting on the best parcels to do this testing on and kind of see how this program would work since it's new for us. And then Public Works would take over and do the contract side of it. So with East Bay Parks, we are in communication. I will say that there's a change in leadership at the fire department, East Bay Parks. Eileen is no longer she retired as a fire chief. And Kari Haley is the new chief now. Kari has had a really good working relationship with our fire department for years now. I've worked with him personally. I foresee a better working relationship with East Bay Regional Parks. But people do need to remember that we have completely different missions. They are a conservation group in a park that's about conserving wildland and open space. And, we have completely different ways we approach fire safety. But I also know that they come out with these long-term plans, multi-year plans for vegetation management. And if we didn't have a seat at the table when they came up with these plans a few years ago, sometimes it's hard to get midstream into the project flow. But we do have good communication with them. With PG&E, we do meet with them. We asked them. We serve them notices just like we do residents about some of their properties. We have a good relationship with their fire liaison rep. They just released a grant program that like the West Contra Costa Fire Safety Council is applying for. They have put in a bunch of projects. PG&E is going to try to fund multiple projects that are up to $100,000 in value of mitigation. It's a competitive process, so there's other wildfire councils putting in for it. I don't know if the West Contra Costa group will get it, but we do work with them. We also work with the county because we have this patchwork of islands that are county jurisdiction and Richmond jurisdiction, especially along San Pablo Dam Road and things like that. So we really have to work with a lot of different folks. East Bay Mud has property up off of Castro Ranch. So it's really hard to get everybody together. We're trying, I think because it's such a heightened level of awareness about all of this, And Richmond has been kind of quiet over the years. If you look at the big picture, I think we're being a lot more assertive now and really asking for things. I think we're starting to get more attention. Measure X funds from the county. Richmond has has about the smallest percentage of their jurisdiction that's wildland, but we've actually received the largest amount of money of Measure X for wildfire mitigation. Nearly $400,000 of the $1 million budget actually has gone to projects that are were recommended or are in the city of Richmond or adjacent to the city of Richmond that we were part of submitting. So, we're really trying to leverage all these different relationships and, see what we can get done. And I'm hoping to improve on that. Like I said, especially now that this is it's on everybody's radar right now. And, the ones that are hard to get movement on are the railroads, some of these other larger larger agencies, federal agencies. We find the railroad can be very difficult. Caltrans, it can be difficult. Those aren't necessarily wildland issues, but they have vegetation management issues that contribute to fires that are in the urban area. So, we're trying.
No,
Thank you.
appreciate
And
that.
Chief,
And
did you say, and maybe Robert and or Chief, or even Dante, Fire Marshal Dante, that you've made some progress above the tunnel with BNSF in clearing the area, or am I misremembering?
we have that just came to my knowledge, Philip. So I will reach out tomorrow personally to BNSF staff and get that situation taken care of as we have previously.
Thank you. Any last questions? Because A, we're 40 minutes too long, and B, I know these guys want to go home.
Philip, can I share one last thing before you leave?
Yes, please, Chief.
I just want to make sure everybody knows where to go. So this website we developed, fire prevention and admin staff and the GIS department. This is the new page on our website, which is through the city website, that's dedicated to the maps, has all the resources, the handouts.
Hey, Chief, I think you got the wrong screen up there. We're looking at your emails.
We're seeing your
All right, well, I guess you're gonna see what Lena sent to me. Let me see here.
Don't need to do a public request act. You could just screenshot it now.
Where we
Save
at
us
here?
money, Chief. Thank you. Saved us money.
Right? That's weird. I should have done that one. Let's see if it's the right one. Are you seeing a map now?
We're seeing a blank. Oh, there it is.
This is the map. You guys seeing the map?
Yeah.
Okay. So this map was the one I need to go back to show you the front page, but basically it's a slider and you can look and see what it currently is and then what it's proposed to be, the new zones. And you can even zoom down to even like a parcel level of the map. So you can kind of see the boundaries better. Let me stop sharing that. I need to get to the page that actually shows the,
And that's going to be on the fire's website.
how about now? No, it still shows my, wow, okay. I don't know why it's doing that when I go to the website.
Well, Chief, you can send it forward and we'll send it out. We'll send an email out in our newsletter.
There we go. Sorry. All right, so it's on the city's webpage. If you go to the tab, it's called Fire Hazard Severity Zones. It has all of these different resources that talk about the maps, what's proposed before and after. You can look up at your own actual parcel. You can put your address in and see where you fall. More importantly, there's all these different questions, how the maps were determined. This video is very informative. If you'd like to know how the maps were developed, what was the science behind the maps, I would highly recommend watching this video from CAL FIRE. And then at the very bottom, there's a place to do public comment and submit it that comes to us so that we can compile these, look at them. And it's something that we have to actually submit to this, to the Board of Forestry and CAL FIRE when this is all done. That we had public comment, and I think we have to actually compile the comments and send them to them also in a spreadsheet. So I really recommend that you guys peruse this page because there's a lot of good information on this page. It's specific to Richmond. And the fact sheet has some great history on how we got these zones. There's some insurance information, the slider tool and the maps. So I really recommend everybody looks at it, submit some public comment if you'd like. Unfortunately, public comment, there's not gonna be a lot of variation we can do, but we would like to just see what the public comment is. And then if you have any questions, probably be easier if maybe you funnel them through one person from your group and I can get back on one email. Any questions you have, I'll try to answer.
Thank you very much, Chief. Thank you, Fire Marshals, both of you. Thank you, Richard. Thank you, Robert. And thank you, community, for letting this go. I think it was worth every minute. And we're really grateful for your time this evening, and hopefully we'll have you back a little later in the year.
Thanks for having us. I hope it was informative.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Let's crank through the community briefs. Thank you all for holding on. I felt, and I hope you agree, this was worthwhile. So we're at community briefs. Charmaine, anything from Search?
I will pass tonight. We have spent
Okay.
more than an hour on emergency management, so
Okay.
continue on.
Thank you. Bonnie Jo, I know I never see your name. Are you here? Okay, so she's actually not here today. Margie, do you want to mention anything about the Arts of Point Richmond? You're muted. You're muted. Still muted. She says no. Okay, thank you. We'll see you at
Oh,
the
yeah,
Arts of-
she unmuted me.
Okay.
Sorry. Okay, so the post office has the flora and fauna from the Arts of Point Richmond. It's a wonderful thing. The Take It Outdoors banners are going up all over town on April 13th and 12th. We are going to have this weekend an event at Artifacts, which is going to be an artist Paris flea market. And on Friday night at the Point Richmond Gallery, there's going to be music and dancing from 2 to 6. That's
Cool. Thank you. That's a lot. Kate reported in that she is working on for Magic Lantern, a series of independent short films for the April meeting. April 7th, it looks, oh, I didn't write it down. I'm sorry. I'll look it up while you go on. The doors open at 7 o'clock. The film starts at 7:30 at the Methodist Church. So I'll get the dates on that while we go on to Pram. I didn't see Layla here. Anybody from Pram? Anybody want to speak on the HOAs? Usually Charmaine again. No?
There's,
Okay.
nothing significant that I know of. Maybe Lisa knows of something. I don't know of anything significant. We still have a really ugly corner at Brickyard Road.
Oh,
And,
Jonathan, you might have an update on that.
oh, that'd be great.
Jonathan, you still on? Oh, he might have dropped off. I know there was an email exchange that went around 1 or 2 weeks ago, and because people were like, hello, anybody gonna do anything? This has just been abandoned. And Marcia Valier responded and said, I haven't seen the message, I just heard from Jonathan. She actually responded and said there was like actually a city meeting that morning, apparently. And so it is supposed to be finished off relatively soon, is my understanding. So I'll text Jonathan and then I can put it in the group.
From
That
your
was a
mouth
good
to God's ears.
summary.
Okay.
Caesar, is that correct?
Yeah. It says the contractor should be mobilizing to raise the CMU wall and other key elements soon. This is as of maybe about 10 days ago or so. And this is from Marcia, and then she will send a more complete description to the PRNC and track once they have some final information and actual dates. She was planning to send an update to the PRNC to post during your monthly meeting. So she might have just got a little busy for it there, but that's the update.
Thank you very much. Now it's up to Charmaine. We will take a quick vote on a completely delightful, happy, 100% positive land use matter.
So I just want to say that the LUDRC meets on Tuesday nights now, the last Tuesday of the month. And we met last night. We had two projects. One was the Watershed Native Plant Nursery. And we had Diana Benner, who's one of the founders. This is an environmentally focused business which provides native plants to public and private areas. They work with the city on various projects to restore and enhance habitats, increasing air quality and supporting water conservation. They would like more space to grow more plants. They want our support to expand their area and ask the city to lease a nearby area so they will have additional growing grounds. That's the summary. The LUDRC approved this project with all votes in favor of supporting Watershed. So let me just do the next one and then we can vote on this one, okay? I want to update people about our second project, which was the property at 237 Western Drive. This was our second meeting. It's a new house on the water. And we discussed views, floor area of the house, parking, and landscaping. We recommended that we would lower the height of the house to allow more water to be seen over the top of the house. The floor area and land area ratio is similar to some of the neighbors, so we didn't feel that that was as significant. Number 3 is about parking. So the architect added some off-street parking. We're glad to see that. And the 4th thing was about landscaping, and the LUDRC recommended that more landscaping is done in the front to soften the look of the front of the house. We voted to meet again next month when we can see the final drawings that incorporate our recommendations. And we hope for a vote on this project next month. So that's the update on that. Now on the Watershed, we seriously like this project and we recommend that the community vote to approve this project. So Phil, do you want to manage the voting?
Sure, I just want to make sure because Andrew from the Watershed Nursery is here that nobody has any questions about it. Basically they lease and they want to expand and we're thrilled because there'll be it's just going to be more nursery land. So we're going to get more employees, more revenue, more protection for Frogtown, but no additional traffic because it's not going to be more customers coming and going. So it's great. Edie, can you toss up the poll? Did you do a poll? Okay, so please remember that you must be an active member in order to vote. Means either you've paid your dues or they've been waived. And so the vote is, should we accept the recommendation to support the Watershed Native Plant Nursery? So please just touch your screen or vote on your screen. And hit submit at the bottom. And we'll give a minute or two for y'all to do that if you're an active member. I think this is the least controversial vote we have ever taken. Yes.
We have a couple more people. Sorry, I was going to say we had 100% participation and then it just dropped down to 68%. So
that's about right.
Yeah.
Okay, and we'll go through this. So can you give us results, Edie? Okay. Oh. Wow. It is unanimous. Congratulations, Sandra. I'm sorry we took up so much of your time. Thank you for having no questions, that means we love you.
Hey, Philip, I'm sorry. This is Jesse. I had to
Hi,
get to
Jesse.
my phone. I do have a question, actually,
Sure.
which is why I didn't vote. I didn't realize there was someone here from Watershed tonight. Can we assume that whatever materials you're using to fertilize these large expanse of tables with plants on them are organic, and organic in a way that does not then flow into the rain sewers and down into the bay, causing excess nitration, et cetera, of the water in the bay?
That's a great question. Thank you. So we won't be planting anything directly in the ground. Everything that we grow is in small pots. So there's not a ton of fertilizing going on other than the soil mix that we use, which is very similar to any soil mix that any of you might be using for your potted plants. I don't have a scientific amount for you
Well,
tonight.
I hear what you're saying, and I picture, I've been a landscaper for 33 years, and I've been to a lot of nurseries, including yours many times, and I'm picturing tables with pots on them, or larger pots on the ground. And it sounds like what you're saying is pretty much the only fertilizer they get is what comes in the mix, what's already built into the mix. You're not running around spraying fertilizer into the pots all growing season.
No, not at all. It's all native plants, so they actually don't want fertilizer.
Okay, good point. Yeah, okay, cool. Very cool. Thank you.
Even though we're running really late, I'm so excited about something that might happen in the future that I just want to share it with you. It is not happening at this time, but Veolia is redoing the treatment plant, as we know, because we've had so few problems from Veolia lately. So one of the things that this is going to do is it's two things that I'm excited about. The presence of the nursery here is going to help the native flora and fauna to recover from the lack of attention that Frogtown has had over the years. So, and that includes the possibility of maybe even doing a little bit of a windbreak. We talked about at the meeting yesterday where some sort of some trees are planted that helps to purify the air and keep odor down in the future. This is a possible thing in the future. But what's really sexy to me was that Veolia is trying to purify their gray water, the released water, and believes that they can to the extent that there'll be less salt in the water. And this is so exciting, in which case the watershed might actually be able to use that water and not need additional water. So there is nothing about Watershed that is anything but delightful, in my opinion. And thanks for being here, Andrew, and thanks community for supporting them. All righty, now we can move on to maskers. Thanks, Andrew.
Yeah, I have a few notes on maskers.
Hi, Jim.
First of all, the next play will begin on April 25th and run through May 18th. That's a play called Other Desert Cities. We're now working on the sets for that one. But the big event is this Saturday, March 29th, our annual crab feed at the Venerable Galileo Club at 371 23rd Street. The doors open at 5 o'clock, dinner at 6. Attendees have to be 21 years of age. And the tickets are $75. Josephina Roscoe at El Sol is in charge of the food. So it's a wonderful event. There's entertainment. There are all kinds of things going on, silent auction. So we really encourage you to go and have a fabulous, large amount of fresh crab.
I have a question really quickly, and I can't raise my hand because I'm the host, so I don't get a hand.
Oh, okay.
I had heard that the crab feed had been sold out. Is that the case, or are there still tickets available?
It's done. Joe texted me. She said the ticket sales have ended.
Yeah, there should be plenty of tickets available. From what I mean, that's an informal response.
Oh, okay. So it's still okay.
Is that you heard otherwise?
Joe told me we pulled that out of our newsletter because she said the ticket sales had ended.
Oh, okay, so they're not selling tickets at the door then?
Okay,
I'm not sure. This question has caught me off guard, quite frankly. I don't know what the answer would be. But when I talked to her last, it sounded like there were plenty of tickets available. But I
okay.
talked to her a
Jim,
couple of days
if you
ago.
could do me a favor and if you could check in with Joe and let me know either way, you can just email me, and Philip has my email. Just email me and let me know so that I can backtrack on the newsletter saying that it was sold out. We don't want to curb your sales unnecessarily.
Right. Okay. I'll
Oh, shit.
She said we can take ticket orders until 5 o'clock today, and that was 2 days ago. But they may be available at the door. We'll find out.
let me check on it.
Thanks, Jim.
Right.
It's definitely a cool event. I will, did you get anything? Usually Peter gets notices from Cordell. Did you get anything on the RNCC, Peter?
I did. Let me pull this up really quick. The RNCC report from Cordell. There were 6 on the dais, 25 on Zoom, 6 people in attendance. Avery Stark, acting planning manager and consultant, presented on the tobacco ordinance. Lieutenant Decious announced his upcoming retirement next year. Let's see. There's a bunch of folks who were basically just a lot of speakers. Carlos Castro. Oh, I know him. Anyway, sounds like it was a full meeting for Cordell. So, and he says that he's hoping to have a new computer by next month, so he'll be able to join us.
And again, we have the PRNC has offered him a computer. So I ran into Mid City Hall the other day, so I reiterated that offer if he has a problem. Richmond Tennis is not here, but I think that most of you may have noticed the corner of Judge Powell Park, with the help of the Parks and Landscaping, is now beautifully landscaped. They're awaiting the benches that are due to be in sometime at the end of April. So if you see Gary or Marin, please do thank them. Graham, are you here today? Oh, we're almost catching up. We had like a really long meeting. And Women's West Side, Julie. Did we lose Julie? Oh, there she is. Hi, Julie. Unmute.
Hi. It just takes a few minutes to unmute. Hi. We got a lot accomplished this last month. We did a map garden cleanup, as well as we always do a Miller Knox cleanup. We did that on the 11th, and the next one will be on April 8th. As well as that, we at our monthly meeting, one of the librarians came and spoke to us, and as well as just giving us a lot of information on their activities. She did field a few questions about the community center conference room, but and I don't know if you have an update because I didn't hear it mentioned, but she did say that if the library takes over administering it, it would only be open during normal business hours. So do you have more?
I have the update.
Okay, so let me finish real quick and then please give us that update. We also will have a table at Spring Fling, so please stop by. We're looking forward to that. And we also will be supporting 3 local charities this year for this and later on in the year as well. So those will be announced soon. And that's all I have. So maybe the community center update would be great.
Thanks, Julian. Thanks for welcome to the new role of spokesperson for Women's West Side. For those of you who are unaware, the library has taken over the use of the community center, which means that it will no longer be rented out for private events. And by the way, the PRNC, we talked about this last time, the PRNC supported this. We have several businesses in the neighborhood that can easily host a private party for probably less money than the community center, like the Hotel Mac meeting room, the downstairs at Masa, any of our restaurants. And so because the community center was sort of an albatross, not bringing in much money and only used for a few times for private events over the last few years, the city voted to hand it over to the library. This is excellent because now we have pretty much unlimited free use of the community center as long as it falls into the library's hours. So that answers that question. Or the library just decides to sponsor the event. So for example, Jim, these history meetings that we're having are now sponsored by the library. Susan, our librarian, gets permission to stay late or to sponsor these events. And so now we have a lot more use. The contingency was that a few times a year for spring fling, for example, that we would have access to that room, and they agreed. So it's so much easier now. We don't have to reserve it. We just have to buy a candy bar for Susan or just be nice to her because she's nice to us. And then if, for example, Caesar, like if we say we have another coffee with a cop or something that we need, it is possible for us to get use of the community center on the weekends. The library does have someone who can facilitate that. But the benefit is we get it through the library and we don't have to pay for it. So I think that's a huge change in animating our community center and our community. So I think it's great. And I know, Jim, can you comment? There's one more history, isn't there? Or did I miss the last meeting?
You mean at the community center?
Yeah. Isn't there
Well,
one
we
more
have
lecture?
we have a whole new series planned for next year. We're still putting it
Okay.
together. Yeah. Expand.
All right. We'll pick that up at the time. Peter, what's going on with ping pong?
You seem to be holding steady at about 6, 7, 8 people at a time. It starts at 5. It's usually over by about 8, 8:30. It's free to play. Come on down. Enjoy yourself. It's more of a social event, social club with ping pong on the side.
It's such a cute little venue too. We
Yeah.
throw our board Christmas parties there, and it's just
very
charming.
nice. It's very
Yeah.
nice. And in fact, we've got a guy who does movie nights once a month there too on Fridays, kind of little free events. But while I've got the floor, I would like to say that we did host our dumpster day, or I should say, Republic Services did, and I think it was very successful. And our secretary Anna collected over $400 in donations from people who are dumping off their trash and happy about it and paying us a fortune. And Phil will eventually get something from Sims Metal regarding all of the scrap metal, a giant dumpster full of metal that they got. Sorry, my bird's all excited about it.
It was 500, but thank you so much, Peter. Ping pong,
Okay.
Peter.
I didn't
I
realize.
said over 4 because I couldn't remember.
$512.
Anna?
Thank you, community.
Anna, how much was it?
I think it was $512. It was all that change. That
Oh,
people-
yes.
And then there were a lot of very generous people who made very generous donations. We have a wonderful community. Thank you.
That's right. There was a whole pickup truck full of change that we counted. So,
Right. And then within a week we had, and I know these are small things, but within a week we had painted the like decrepit flagpole by the fire station, which has been on our nerves. It was blue and dirty and chipping. So a little at a time, a couple $100 and a couple here and there, we can fix up things using that money. And I have to thank Anna. She's pretty assertive, which is a nice way of saying people are afraid of her. So, I mean, she did a good job at collecting.
That I had a great hat on. That's why they gave me money. I had that white hat. Come on.
Yeah, plus you and the girls did a really good job of it.
and we got to call out Eric. That guy, he gets out there and he's working with those fellows from Public Services. And I mean, he spent the whole time there.
To my knowledge, we are the only neighborhood council who actually helps people unload their cars.
Wow.
And I think that's important. We have a lot of seniors and it moves things along. We filled 5 dumpsters this year, plus the metal, 5 trash and 1 metal. So thanks everybody for that success. And back to Jim again for Rosie.
Yes, I'll be giving another one of my talks on home front in World War II at the Rosie Center this Sunday, March 30th at 2:30. I'm going to be talking about American fascism. So if you want to learn more about the Bund, the silver shirts, and you probably don't realize that we had a Führer in Petaluma. I'll be talking about him too. So
That's Sunday at 2:30, this Sunday at 2:30 at Rosie downstairs.
Right.
Great. If you haven't been to Jim's lecture, she's great at it. Does anybody have anything they'd like to introduce themselves or just anything they'd like to discuss during public forums? Yeah, Lisa?
Were you going to say anything about Ricky?
I forgot. I haven't figured out how we're going to do this yet. For those of you who are aware of Ricky, who is a gentleman who lives in his van on private property in our area and has just been kind of our go-to guide for helping to clean and maintain our town triangle. A lot of the businesses pay him $20 to clean this or that. And you may know him because he's frequently on his bicycle with a little cart, and in his cart he has brooms and mops and rakes. So Ricky's a friend of our community. He is unhoused, but we've worked out a system to welcome him. During and probably related to these car break-ins on the night of the 24th, somebody stole his little cart. So somebody stole from somebody who really, that's his little bit of money. So I'll figure out how to communicate this. I think we're going to try to just do a tiny little collection to see if we can raise about $150 to $200 if you're interested, to see if we can get Ricky his supplies back, his brooms and mops and I've reached out to a couple local businesses to see if somebody can put an envelope behind their counter so that people can just drop by a little cash. Not a gigantic GoFundMe thing, but just something simple and easy to see if we can replace that because it's sad. It's really sad. So I'll figure out a way to communicate that, or maybe we'll actually just start a little GoFundMe. I don't know how, but we'll figure it out. So I just wanted to point that out. Thanks, Lisa.
I've got your back on that, Philip. I can.
Oh yeah, of course.
Of course, I can do everything. But yes, I can absolutely do that.
Okay. It's such a small ask. Any things? I know we went super late. I see some new names, so thank you all for being here. I really appreciate it. And thank you for letting us go so long. I just think that this fire safety thing, there's so many unanswered questions. And maybe we will look at having, because Coffee with a Cop was so successful last winter, maybe we'll look at, doing something live. Oh, I see. I have questions from James as well. Something live for fire safety and or police again at the end of the year. Yes, James?
It wouldn't be a complete meeting if I didn't bring up the stench.
Oh, I have solutions. So thanks. I met with John Joya. I've met with Caesar. And I have been in communication with Contra Costa Public Health. They have identified the stench as Republic Services, which most of us know. It's the composting field. Jesse's the queen of experts of the bad smells. They have been fined for last weekend's fiasco. They will continue to be fined. And I will send this out as well, this information in the next couple of days. Everyone involved, including the agencies, are asking to call over and over again every day, shoot an email. The more complaints they have, the more ammunition they have to go against Republic or whatever the polluter du jour is. And, obviously the people who are asking us to call then have to do work. So it's not in vain you know, that
Call Bay Area Air Quality or call West Contra Costa Environmental Health?
it's
both?
both of them.
Both.
West
Okay.
West Contra Costa Environmental Health has an easy email. I posted it on Nextdoor for those of you get it. Just put my name in the search column, and there's a very easy thing where you can just email and they email back, or you can phone. They work together, so either or both. But I'm doing both, and
Okay.
John wants us to. John Joya wants us to contact the Air Quality Board because he's on it, I think.
Yes.
Yeah, he is.
But I think that both is fine. We get a lot better. I've had really great feedback from public health. Thanks for bringing it up, James.
Yeah, they're
This has been
I just want to say, Lisa said last time, I want to emphasize West Contra Costa Environmental Health is what's called the agency of record. So they're actually the ones that are responsible to go out. They go out and meet with them. I mean, I know that when we complain, Bay Area Air Quality goes out, but the really work of bringing this facility to its senses is going to be West Contra Costa Environmental Health. The guy from Bay Area Air Quality that we were having secret meetings with a few years explained to us that they are the agency of record. So it's really important. People look up that email address. Maybe you could post it in the newsletter or something.
It is
we can
currently
we
in
can
the
just
chat.
send something out. We can send
Okay.
that's actually the wrong link for West Contra, Edie, but
That is the I'm sorry, you're absolutely right. My apologies.
that's
That is
okay.
the correct
Well,
one.
why don't we just, Edie and I in a day or two will just send, all I'll do is copy and paste my Nextdoor post because that's kind of complete.
And thanks for telling us to call. I gave up. I was like going to wait till I could get a drone and put a little air sampler on it. I just gave up. And so, I mean, now I can die happy. Somebody
This has
actually
been disgusting. This has been, and I mean, we've all faced this for decades, but
Hey,
this
Phil.
last bout, terrible. Yeah, James.
Are there any other neighborhood councils engaged in this? Because
Yes, well, I'm working on it with the other neighborhood councils. I've sent out that notice to the others in hopes. But if you look at the social media, it's coming in from the whole surrounding area. So I don't think it's just us.
No, when the wind, it's which way the wind is blowing. So
Yeah, of course.
And
It's
you
just
Great.
been gross this time.
And you can file for West County Health. You can also file the complaint online.
Oh,
so if
thank
you
you.
don't want to do it by phone, you can actually file an online complaint. The links are there.
I sent an email and I got an answer, which I posted on Nextdoor, Jesse, because I know you're on Nextdoor. I got an answer. I posted in the evening and I got it the next business day. So they're aware, and I think they're pissed off, and I think they need I'm sorry, they're angry and fed up, and I think they need the numbers of our complaints in order
Well,
to do that.
I'm really glad to hear they're fed up and angry, and maybe they're just being annoyed by, maybe it's good we're bugging them because they used to be. You remember how the Public Utilities Committee was in bed with, or whatever it's called, PUC was in bed with PG&E back in the days of the big fire in San Bruno. That's kind of the way in the past the environmental health has been. They go, they sit with the Republic Services guy, they chat with them, they drink whatever Kool-Aid they're served. So I'm really glad to hear that they are now wanting this situation resolved. I've had so many asthma attacks this year. It's
been terrible.
It's been terrible.
I think I mentioned it to you, Philip, that I was at a museum event a few weeks ago and I ran into Eduardo Martinez and I brought this up and he said he didn't know anything about it.
Yeah, well,
yeah.
he fell asleep at the city council meeting the other day. So
yeah.
So
there
as
we
a
go.
little bit of scuttlebutt, little inside information that may or may not be playing into this about the Department of Environmental Health being in bed with, allegedly, with Republic Services. Recently, a woman named Mary Jo Rossi, who is really the lobbyist power broker in Contra Costa County, who has almost exclusively been the lobbyist for Republic Services had her home raided by the FBI. There is suggestions that it has to do with, in part, with what's happening in Oakland, with the former Mayor Sheng Tao being raided by the FBI in conjunction with bribes for a different garbage company. So all of that is all 100% conjecture and rumor, but I do find it interesting that all of a sudden the Department of Environmental Health is distancing itself from Republic Services just at the time that their key lobbyist is in trouble with the FBI.
What is that word? Schadenfreude?
Schadenfreude.
Schadenfreude. Okay,
But
we're
she's
way.
but the company that they're speculating she's involved with is a different service company than Republic Services.
Yes, they speculate that the issue is with, but the fact that she is the lead lobbyist and has been for years, her main client has always been Republic Services. So I would imagine she's a little busy these days and not
Go
able to serve her
FBI.
clients.
Go FBI. All right, I'm closing this meeting off. Thank you all for staying. I think it was worthwhile, and we'll follow up on fire safety throughout the year. Thank you so much, everybody. We'll see you on April 5th at the Spring Fling.
Thanks again, Phil.
And Saturday, you'll get the email about the District 2 meeting.